Hello, everyone. What the heck was that all about? Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another 5K tennis discussion. Today is Monday, February the 24th, 2020. And we are here to talk about tennis, so let's get down. You ready, Carla?
Yep.
Let's go. All right, breaking news real quick, hot off the press. This is really intense stuff. We have something, as you all may know at this point. It's a little device that has a needle on it. It's a box, and when we watch tennis, and there's really loud screeching tennis players that squeal so loud, it sounds like, a pig's running through your brain being chased by the local butcher. This device is brought out, and we set it down. We just totally knock off all the noise in the house. That means all kids have to shh. And we put this little metronome-like device out, and then we crank up the volume. And we get down and we get a reading off this thing. So we're not going to spend much time on this, but Allison Risk and Jen Brady just completed a match. I think it was in Qatar. It was a 3-setter, and I think Brady took it in the third set. But they squealed so dang loud. I was upstairs, like on a total different corner of the house, and I thought someone was like getting their arm chopped off down the street, but it was in the living room. Let's go. It scored a 9.798476 and has set the precedence for the Screech Level Indicator Award for the rest of 2020. Good job, Risk. Good job, Brady, on sounding like pure garbage out there. Jeez, preposterous. I had to mute it once I realized someone wasn't getting killed down the street.
Well, they definitely beat Munar and Thiem.
Holy shenanigans, Batman. That's a good one, too. Fist pumps on that. It's very rare that we break out the SLI indicator on men. But Dominic Thiem beat, who did he beat first? He beat Jamie Munar, another squealing grunt extraordinaire himself. Man, it was like Thiem, Munar, sounded like someone dying of starvation and dehydration in the middle of the Gobi Desert and hadn't eaten in a week. Jeez, porty potty somewhere. Then we got beat even, or the men's side even got beat in the next round. Dominic Thiem ended up losing to the Italian qualifier Gianluca Maher or Mager.
He looks a bit tired, Thiem. I think he's played a lot of tennis, and I don't see him doing well at the French Open. I have a feeling that we'll be a little surprised with Thiem this, Grand Slam. I think he's put a lot of energy on the hard courts.
I know one thing that's doing.
He did complain about his knees hurting, so.
Well, his grunt level is not hurting. He's doing real well on grunting. But the Italian qualifier, Gianluca Maher, someone can correct me on the pronunciation. Homeboy can grunt, and he has a delayed grunt. He's like hits the ball, finishes follow through, and it's like after. I'm like, man, had to mute that sucker too. The best of luck for all of them. However, the grunting I can live without. And Thiem, in my opinion, looked a little worn down, like a little.
He does. That's what I'm saying.
He looked a little wide, like a little thin.
Very thin. I think he's played a lot of tennis. I think he needs to kind of relax a bit on the tennis tournaments. He put a lot of hard work on the, on the hard courts. In clay, as we know, I think I read an article when Nick Kyrgios made fun of the dirt ballers, and we know that the dirt ballers are really tough to beat.
They can fight. They grind all day. They want to rip your face off. But look, to dirt ball and to ball with the best of them, I'd rather have Nadal's build right now, obviously, than I would the way Thiem looked in this past tournament. He looks like he's maybe 5, 7, 8 pounds underweight, and at the top of sports, sometimes when you come in on the scales, 5 to 8 pounds heavy pre-fight, sometimes, or 5 to 8 pounds light. That being, it's not due to dehydration because you're trying to get to a certain weight and then you just get it back. But Thiem looked definitely a little on the thin side. He looked fit, very fit, but he looked definitely maybe even on the scrawny side.
He did a bit, yes.
Gonna be hard to take Nadal out on clay looking scrawny. All right, enough of that. In all due seriousness, I'm going to change tides here, and we're going to talk about something, and this is going to be, I'm assuming, the gist of this show. And that is something that I was reminded of, or Carla and I were reminded of when we read a statement from Alexander Bublik, who is a Russian tennis player. And
plays for Kazakhstan.
Yeah, born in Russia, I think, plays Kazakhstan. Yeah. But I think prior to a certain year. It was kind of a...
Yeah, it's the same
It was
thing.
kind of... It's the same thing. Okay. We won't get into politics here. It doesn't matter. Not in tennis. Global language. Let's go! But Alexander Bublik, with the likes of many other players, so Andre Agassi, there's a girl that
Jelena Dokic. There's many.
There's many players, and not just pro players, but there's players that we know that we teach.
I think Jennifer Caprati at one point hated tennis as well.
So the comment that Alexander Bublik made is a poignant one. It struck a good, I guess, neurological spark, and I figured we would talk about it for a moment and talk about why this is very common.
Yes.
So don't hate Alexander Bublik for the following comment. In a nutshell, he's saying he hates tennis and only does it to make a dime. Can you read the comment that we discussed earlier from Bublik?
Yes, definitely.
So,
by the way, he started playing tennis at 4, and
his father's his coach.
His father is still his coach.
And there's nothing wrong with that, but we'll discuss this more at length. So let's read Bublik's comment. And let's talk about it, and let's be serious about it.
Okay, he says, I hate tennis with all my heart, said the current player number 55 in the world. To be honest, I don't see something positive in being a tennis player. I only play for money. If there was no money, I would stop playing tennis instantly. I haven't earned enough money. Otherwise, I would have already retired. The player he competes for Russia and changed his citizenship in 2016, by the way.
Well, we've talked about changing your flag for a long time, but Kazakhstan and Russia, in my mind, and you guys over there can correct me there, and I know everyone fights for their individual freedom, but I think historically it's basically kind of the same, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe there's like some religious...
I've seen a lot of Russian players play for Kazakhstan.
So, I'm naive and I'm an idiot when it comes to that, but...
Hey, I got called an idiot in this channel.
Let's go!
Yeah.
She got called an idiot.
Tell me that in my face, see what happens.
Yeah, someone told me that I was a sellout and like because I didn't worship Roger Federer at his hands and knees anymore. We just like deleted the comment and like blocked the person. Yeah. Anyway, we try to have fun. And anyway, when it gets a little out of hand, I remember when Carla got like, I can't wait to bury you and burn you or something. And I'm like,
good for you. Yes.
Great job. Honorable mention. Okay. So the comment that, in a nutshell, from Alexander Bublik is he hates to play tennis. It's a grind. He hates it. A matter of fact, I read that and I did a little research more on his kind of uptake into the game. And he has a tattoo, and I'm fond of tattoos, and I won't go there. I have plentiful tattoos, but I think they all should have a meaning. And for him, he agrees. From what I've read, and he has a tattoo of a skeleton holding a tennis ball. And to him, as I read his quotes about the tattoo, where he looks at that and understands he has to endure tennis every day in order to succeed, in other words, he has to endure the game for every day of his life. He
says, I have 7 tattoos, and each has a particular meaning in my life. The one I have associated to tennis is a skeleton that has a tennis ball in its hand. It jogs my memory that I should endure this sport every single day. That's deep.
Okay, now this is an important comment. So he has to endure it every day, but yet his tattoo has his probably only thing that he's really, really good at in life. No disrespect. I'm just being honest. That's why he's playing it. And in one hand, a skull and crossbones, basically holding it.
He's 22 years old. He's still young. He can't retire yet.
I'm rooting for this guy.
But he says, I haven't left tennis yet because I haven't made enough money. I doubt you would make enough money by 22 in tennis.
I'm rooting for this guy. I know how this guy feels. I know at some point down the line you have felt the same way, Carla.
Sure. He's 22. 6'5", 170 pounds. He's made 1.3 in prize money, which is not a lot. That
doesn't go anywhere. That doesn't go anywhere. We know that. He's already paid that out, traveling and coaches already, and food and taxi cabs and airfare and so forth. But let's pause right here. I'm saying go Bublik. Let's go. However, let's talk about how common this is in the world of tennis and why. And by the way, you can use this discussion as a metaphor for life, whether it is your job or whether it is your family if you have kids or anything in life. You can metaphor this for anything. Okay, but let's talk about why in tennis it's equally as common as why people get burned out going to their 8 to 5 or 9 to 7 or whatever your hour span job is.
Most people hate their jobs. Most
people hate it.
Most people hate getting up to go to work, but it's what they got to do to survive. So you can definitely relate to this. Tennis is not, these players that are playing tennis on the tour, they're not doing this for fun. It's their job. That's what they are good at, just like any athlete. That's his job.
All right, so let's build from right there, the building blocks. It's your job, and that's what you do. That's what you were born into. So let's talk about why, Carl. Let's talk from first person. Let's not assume. Let's talk from our upbringings. My dad's out there flying to Sacramento right now. Your dad's out there representing right now. Let's talk about in brutal honesty how some of our upbringing were as children, and then let's relate that to how surely his upbringing has been as well. Carla, who was your main coach when you were young?
My father.
Carla, who was my main coach when I was young?
Your dad.
How forgiving were our fathers when we did anything wrong not on the tennis court, outside of the tennis court?
Not at all. I was scared. Just if I got to look for my dad, I knew I was dead meat.
I think I remember you being disciplined when you were a young girl with long, beautiful hair by having your hair cut short, like very short, like a boy.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
There was times for me, and I won't get into anything more than I was disciplined very harshly for the slightest of errors. But now looking back,
I thank my dad.
Back, bravo.
I think parents are too soft on their kids these days, and or some people try to make you feel like you're a victim. I'm not a victim of anything.
Not a victim.
Soldiers. I look at people in Africa that have no choice and get things cut off that they shouldn't get cut off. That's a victim.
Let's go.
We're not a victim. My dad did many things. I remember being in many finals where I could have won the tournament, and he said, "You must win with authority, not playing the way you are, pushing the ball." And he would say, "You're not finishing this match. You're done. The opponent deserves the win. You didn't play good enough." And I remember losing and getting punished. My dad would not go out there with a hopper. He'd go out there with 3 balls, and he'd say, "We're going to play with these 3 balls for an hour, and we're going to make them last or else." And sometimes it would be dark. And he said, "It's dark."
Define this drill, though. So the drill is you go out to the local courts with 3 balls. Now, you're going to play with those 3 balls for a couple of hours. Now, break that down. That doesn't mean you're just going to go chase those 3 balls. That means when I feed the first ball in, we're going to hit that ball back and forth. And hey, hopefully there's no errors.
I was not allowed to hit winners because he said, "I'm not running after the balls." He's like, "You're going to hit them to me, and I'm not running after them."
So the drill is those 3 balls. The first ball, once someone makes an unforced error, then that ball's done.
He's allowed to make them. I was.
Yeah, he can make them. So this is a drill, and it's an abound drill. It's out there. It's nothing new about this. This is a good drill. So you set a time limit. You throw 3 balls on the court. The ball goes back and forth, position to position, back and forth, back and forth. First one hit the net. Okay, we made it in 20 minutes without an error, which is very difficult. Most people make an error in 27 seconds or 2 seconds, like third ball. Okay, that ball's out of the equation. We got 2 left. These 2 balls are going to stay in play for the next hour. And if not, we're going to start over. And if we don't get it, we're going to stay here till the sun comes up until we get it done. Is that true?
Yeah, my dad, the lights would come off, and he said, no problem.
No problem, man.
Let me go get my car.
Let me go get the car and shine the headlights on the court.
Which is why I'm going to go back to people saying that it was a weak era. If you know what these tennis players go through, there is no weak era. Those tennis players have to work hard just to be able to reach that level. Unless you've trained, you've done this sport, you don't understand. You can never put yourself in their shoes, ever.
Now.
Ever. I had one guy say that he was running a club. I don't believe him. You don't know. Because if you knew that, you would know the sacrifice each player has to make in their life.
Bring it. For me as a kid, there would be multiple. So my mother was the one that would always try to make sure we got adequate sleep before we went to school the next day to ultimately just get back out on the tennis court the following day after school. So my sister would go out first, and she would sometimes get out of school at 3, 4 in the afternoon, or whatever time it was, and she would be on the court till 7, 8 or night. Usually I would go first, actually. It would be me that would be out on the court till like 7 or 8 at night. And then my father would get my sister, and they would stay out until very late at night. So my mom would be like freaking out, like, oh, she has to have sleep. But no, she has to be on the court. But looking back, that is what it takes to succeed in this game. And if anyone has a brighter idea of a way you can get some instant Matrix-like Neo download where you can plug me into the Matrix and all of a sudden I can learn Kung Fu in 12 nanoseconds, then great. But to be really great in this game, you got to work your ass off.
There's no smiles.
There is no smiles.
There's no
It's
smiles.
business. It's grueling. It's in your face. Because if you don't work that way, there's someone that's going to be hungry with the likes of Djokovic or Anna Ivanovic that have been playing in bombed-out swimming pools that want to tear your face off.
Well, they work hard too. I'm sure that when Djokovic went through his training,
That's what I'm saying.
Any player that the coach wasn't like, beautiful
Great shot.
I'm sure that
so
his
nice
dad,
of you.
I'm
So
sure
great.
his dad was intense, as
Shoot.
well as the coach, as well as the family. We teach our kids now. My 10-year-old pouts a lot, and I tell her, you know, when my dad used to say, hate me now, love me later.
Love me later.
This is not supposed to be all smiles.
You can hate me now, but you'll love me later.
Right.
There you go.
It's just so I understand why he hates tennis. I started at 11, and my dad trained me. If it was on weekends, he would say, we sleep when we die. And we wake up early, and we go train. We come back at 12 o'clock. He'd say, I'm going to make a big lunch. You're going to take a nap, and we're going back out again. And we'd go back out to the tennis courts again, and then come back late. For a tennis player that hates tennis, almost everyone does at a certain point. I trained in Brooklyn, and there was a tennis club called the Brooklyn Racket Club. And we had a lot of Russian players that were really good. Father was the coach, or they had family that they brought over, and they brought the kids to New York. Those kids hated tennis. They used to cry in the locker room, but they were damn good. Damn good. I mean, some of us quit tennis. I quit tennis for a little while.
Soldier stuff.
And I came back to it. I mean, we don't always... I quit many times. There's another time where I said, I hate this sport. It's frustrating. It's a frustrating sport. It sucks to lose. No one likes losing. You know, you work so hard just to lose one match that, you know, could depend, you know, you going to the next round. I definitely understand his pain. I understand why he said it. I'm sure Federer at one point... He smashed his racket. He hated the sport. Djokovic went through the same frustration.
Federer smashed rackets in the middle of his career. In Miami, I think he blasted one in his white shirt with the gray collar.
We've seen many players that they kind of fade away. Agassi is the biggest one. He hated the sport. He even wrote about it. So there's many players who went through this. There's nothing wrong with what he said.
A couple of things as we even get deeper into this conversation. You'll hear comments about hating tennis from itty-bitty juniors, from my 7-year-old to my 4-year-old loves it actually, but my 17, soon to be 18-year-old, our oldest son of 5, the 17, soon to be 18-year-old, we know he doesn't like to play. He's a very good player. Could you imagine how dominant he would be if he actually cared to be out there?
He doesn't care.
He just doesn't care.
That's why I don't train him.
But that's okay. We train him. We train him.
We don't train him.
But wait a minute. We trained him with authority to make sure he knows how to play the game forever at a high level.
Right.
But when it gets down to, okay, do I want to make a life out of this? He'd rather be military. He likes flying jets and stuff. He wants to do military, respectively. So half of my family's military. Actually, I think all of my family is military. I think all of them.
Well, Jonathan started the game very late. Number one, he started in 9th grade, which that means he was 14 years old. Very late for him, but it's something that he could do for the rest of his life. But it's not his passion.
All right, so here's the reason why you get this sentiment from so many players, regardless of age or where they come from or what part of the game that they're in. Now, it's less common when the top handful in the world, because they've got so many sponsors and so much going for them that it's just part of being their image, their global image. But not everyone has this global image, right? So let's talk about the learning curve in the game of tennis. How easy is it to learn the game of tennis, Carlo? We teach students every day. We teach our own children, but let's talk about our own children just for the show, because we won't bring on people on the outside and into that. So the Gabriella, love her to death. She's our 7-year-old. She is just starting to understand how to serve, and we've worked with her. I'm not going to say daily. I don't want to exaggerate, but almost every day of the week at 7, and she's just now starting to get it. Liliana, our 10-year-old girl, a really fine player in terms of hitting forehands and backhands. Athletically, a specimen, just like you. She definitely gets her legs and physique from her mom. And she can really dominate, but when it comes down to serving, She's just now, maybe a year ago, started to get the full.
She's starting to get into it.
The full snap.
We just started getting into points. I'm right behind her, screaming at her, because that's the way it has to be done. You can't be like, that's okay.
That's okay.
If you want to create a champion, that's what you got to do. I'm behind her, screaming at her every time she makes a mistake.
Yeah. So our 15-year-old son, Chris, has great tactics, wonderful tactics. He's got this brilliant mind on court of tactics. He knows where to put people. He knows where to back them up. He finds their weaknesses in warm up. He studies. He's really a good tennis student. But when it comes down to executing the game plan, his shots are so loopy. And we talk about all these players that have all these loopy shots. Woo, mostly American tennis players, no offense. But we watch Chris and we're like, dude, just compact the shot. Just take care of business. But he's too absorbed in this loopiness and thinking that he's right. So here we are, kids that you and I, outside of our students, that have brought and born into this game, and we're still having difficulty with them at ages 7, 10 and 15. The oldest one, 18, is, it's not his thing. He wants to fly airplanes. That's okay. And then our youngest one, 4, to me at this point, of all 5 kids, seems to be the one that really wants to get out there and just light it up and not have to say anything. And he's 4 and he was hitting balls back and forth today.
Well, some people have it natural and some people are brought into it late. Well, this guy, Bublik, was 4 years old and he still hates tennis. So I don't know which age is right. I know the younger you start, the less chance they have being exposed to, unfortunately, the world the way it is, with all the gadgets and all that stuff. At 4, you can kind of mold them. We started Lily at 6. It's just in her character being a stubborn person, but she's got potential as well. And Gabby's starting to like it, but it's tough. It's not easy.
It's a grind. It's like
to be a tennis player. It's not easy. Yeah, it's tough. It's one of the toughest sport. If you stop playing, you fall behind. You have to hit, like I tell every student, you get mad because you miss a point, you have to hit that shot millions and millions of times until you can hit it without even looking.
Yeah, and then you get the kids and then they pout on you, they get upset, and they're like, forget this, their body language drops, their racket head drops, they start walking with pouting shoulders, and you're like, stop pouting. You can't play better unless you're pouting, and then you have to realize it's a 10-year-old girl and you can't hit them that hard because they're just going to pout worse and cry. So what do? So then you tell the 15-year-old, you're like, hit the ball, man, hit the ball, stop being so loopy. And he's like, yeah, and then it just turns them off. So there's a fine line between creating a tennis player and having kind of the lucky seed that just wants to do it, and that's the hopes for the 4-year-old. But let's look at why
I'm sure that Bublik's dad was constantly screaming and still does at his son, don't you think? Especially the way I have Russian friends, so I know. I've eaten dinner with them, I've been around them, they've been around my family. They're very intense, just like Spanish people, super intense, and they want their kids to be perfect.
Let's talk about why a young man or a young lady or even a middle age, doesn't matter, that's depending on tennis, at least as a player's perspective. We coach, and that's my passion at this point. I don't have to go out and prove myself at 42 that I can beat your ass on the tennis court. I tried doing that recently, and I blew my patellar tendon out. So my playing days at that level are done. I will do some YTEX play testing and so forth, neither here nor there. But I've learned my lesson the hard way. But let's talk about why people grow to hate tennis. Let's start out from the childbirth, okay? The very beginnings. This is my history, your history, and millions, well, I'm not going to say millions, but lots of others out there that have excelled in the game of tennis. And I love it, but some people like Agassi and Bublik and the girl you mentioned, they just don't. But let's talk about why. When you're born into the game, or you're part of a tennis family or an athletic family, you wake up. You wake up from childbirth. I started hitting balls at 2. There's a picture there to prove it. I don't want to spin the camera around.
You've shown it many times.
Shown it many times. You wake up in the morning. You talk about tennis. You go to school if you're old enough to remember. I was hitting balls before I remember the school aspect of it. You wake up, and that's what you do. You talk it, you strategize it, you talk it. You go to school, you come home, you change your clothes. If not in the car on the way home, dropped off at the court, you get yelled at for 3, 4, 5, 6 hours, you get dropped off, you get home, you do your homework. You go to sleep for a few hours, wake up, hopefully eat a healthy breakfast, you go back to school, and then you go back to the tennis court, and then and so forth. And that is your life every single day for me until I was, well into my teens. You, same way. So there comes a point in time where the child never adapts, and children, they think they know everything. We got 5 of them. They all think they know more than us when it comes to telling them, what's good for them in life, right? I got my 15-year-old that thinks he needs a car because he knows everything. I'm like, dude, you can't even clean the earwax out of your ear right, and you want a car? Huh? I'm like, what do you do? Chill, slow your roll, bro. Stop hitting loopy forehands, and we'll still won't talk about it. Just saying. So you live with that. It's all you know. It's all you know. Sometimes when kids get out of the house, they venture out. My sister, great example. Love you, sis. Just telling you the truth. But when my sister was just like me, she was born into it. She played it every day. Da, 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 da. She goes clear across country to college, and what happens? The game. You're like, okay. Whew,
well, she's a perfect example of somebody who hates the game. She doesn't even like talking about it.
Doesn't like to talk about it.
And she was
doesn't
good
want to play
it.
She really good. She was the #1 junior.
She doesn't even.
And the Mid-Atlantic states and the mid-'80s. She was like #2 in the entire state of California. We traveled the country. She would win every tournament. But as soon as she hits college, out. Done.
I have friends that were in the Reebok team that trained every day just like me, that had fathers throw chairs at them and stuff.
That's great.
And they won't touch a racket. They're like, how do you still play? I can't stand that game. I can't even stand watching it.
So look, it's frustrating from the child's perspective, because if you're going to be good at the game, honestly, it does take that. It does take the everyday work, and the kids they quit it because they just lose the fight. Kind of like a wild lion getting taken out of the desert, or not the desert, but out of their habitat.
Put them in a zoo.
Now you put them in a zoo, they lose the fight. I've said this about Federer and Serena in the past couple of years. You look in their eyes, it just looks like they're there because they have to be, and it doesn't look like they really want to be. I know a lot of you say, oh, you're a Federer hater and you used to love Serena.
I disagree with you.
Anyway, we're not going to get into that. I'm done with that. That's so stupid. Think what you wish. Doesn't matter. But why does it get depressing, and do we begin to hate it, and it get etched in our biological stone as we become adults? Why? Because we learn emotions. So let's say this person, Bublik, by the way, and I'm just saying him. But let's say we've trained our entire life, and now we're struggling. Or our family might be struggling to travel and to pay for you to go play these challenges or futures or tournaments here or there. You work your butt off and you go somewhere and you're ready and you're so pumped up. You're like, let's go. I'm about to play my first quali match. Yeah, I can't wait. I'm going to kill this dude. I can't wait to play. And then all of a sudden you get bageled 6-0, 6-0, and you got to travel home. It becomes deflating. It becomes depressing. It becomes saddening. You wonder what you're doing in life. You wonder if your parents are super rich and they're paying for you to go. You wonder, when they die or something, how am I going to survive? I don't know what to do. That's all I know, and now I'm stuck here. I don't have a college education. And some of them, by the way, come to the U.S., internationally, and go to college first with the likes of, Kevin Anderson and then many, many, many others. And they get the education that they can fall back on after maybe tennis doesn't work out. I'm not going to get into that either. That's why the U.S. loses all their scholarships at the Division I level to international players, is because the coaches can get wins out of the players, and then the international players, no matter what, are going to beat all the Americans. No offense, but it's true. People like Kevin Anderson will come over and just destroy all the Americans, get the #1 seed on the team, get a free education. No matter what happens with the knees or whatever elsewhere, they always have the university education to fall back on that they attained here. And that's not Kevin Anderson's fault. I'm not picking on him, but that's the truth. And that happens every single day. And we ask ourselves why tennis in the U.S. doesn't work. It's because of stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So I'm sorry to get into the kind of the philosophical reasoning and theories behind why tennis is fading in the U.S., but there's a really good example right there, and that's the true. But when we spend so much time playing the game and we end up on an airplane traveling and we're on the way back,
that's tough.
Flying 7 hours across the Pacific, and we're sitting there like, man, I worked so hard. I thought I was going to win the entire tournament, and I just lost.
Which would then fall into
what are we doing?
Why do they throw matches? That's another subject.
and then it can get lonely too. If you don't have big sponsors, and I think the really heavy sponsorships are like top 20, top 25 in the world, enough where you can chill. But you travel alone a lot. If you can't afford an entourage to travel with you, girlfriend, boyfriend, family, trainer, coach, pal, whatever, you travel alone a lot and lonely. And I think we live to love or live to have friendships and interconnect. And I think that's why we do this channel, to interconnect with people. And when it turns into a pissing contest, it's just like, enough. Mute out. It's not what we do here. But it becomes lonely. And no one wants to be lonely. So when you're traveling international lonely and your father is still your coach, like Bublik, like Donald Young, Bartoli, and a million other people that have had their fathers as their coach, eventually they're just like, man, I just want to get out. I just want to win a match. And if I can't win a match, man, I'm just so tired of being ruled by my father. I just want out. I just want to be done. I'm done. And this is the type of setting that sets in on young men and women in the game when they just don't understand how much work it takes, or if they don't find the internal fight to fight like a wild animal in the wild.
Well, it seems like he's
to
fighting.
survive.
It seems like he's fighting pretty
No,
well.
yeah, no. Again, forget the context here was not picking on Bublik. It just reminded me of why people. Good for Bublik. He's playing. He's fighting. I love this guy. I'm on Team Bublik, man. I love this guy because of his.
He's got a good ranking,
and he's honest.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's great. And he's young. So from this point forward, I'm going to move forward with Team Bublik. And I'm not going to sell him out for changing his flag here, Kazakhstan to Russia here. I know we've talked about changing flags and so forth.
He plays her catch tomorrow.
And that's going to be
tomorrow.
Yeah, that's going to be a good match. A couple more things I wrote on this topic. And this is true as well. This is no game. In my playing career, on all levels, I have known a lot of players, not just a couple, a lot. Like, I would say at least 20 that come into locker rooms, tournaments, etc., and they're strung out on like opiates and pain pills and stuff, and they can't seem to even get through a match without popping a painkiller. Not necessarily because they're in pain anymore, but because they're dependent upon an opiate or a painkiller to get through it. I don't want to talk about that. I'm not a doctor. I'm too naive to talk about stuff like that. And I'm relatively familiar with the topic personally. But it's not any good. It doesn't create anything good for you or your team. It just doesn't. So keep that in mind, that an epidemic that we have in the world today is being strung out on things simply to get through the day, and I'll just leave it at that. But the mood of the players, and there's a lot of them over the years that I have seen come and go. You can always tell who it is that has this issue, just by the way they act and their demeanor abound. And anyway, I'm not going to get into that, but it's also a problem. Some players have a problem too when they travel, especially if they're not super rich or have an entourage with them. They get I mentioned a minute ago, humans have this desire to be loved or to be part of something, and when you're traveling alone all the time, depression can set in, and I know the feeling there as well. Depression is a tough thing, if you're traveling and you got, loved ones at home and you're in, Puerto Rico. I'm just throwing that out. I don't know if there's a tournament in Puerto Rico, but let's say your loved ones are in New York City and you just flew to Australia taking your savings with you and you just lost in qualifying. You're coming home more broke than you were when you left, and, the family and friends or wife and kids were depending upon you bringing home something. Then it becomes a really depressive state. So again, this is another reason. Also, there's a lot of people out there that don't even like tennis as fans. You go to a local restaurant or something, and someone puts it on tennis. Everybody's like, "Turn that off! What the heck is that? I hate that." Why is that? It's because just like myself with like rugby or cricket, I don't know the rules. I don't hate it. I don't know the rules. I don't have any players to follow, so it's hard for me to watch because I know nothing about it. And with 5 kids and coaching, and I don't have the time to learn it, in a sense. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it's become with tennis and the U.S., is that if you even mention, I can mention, honestly, you can call me out on this, Carla, if I'm lying. I can mention Roger Federer, Novak Djokovic, and Rafael Nadal in the same sentence to 50%, 75% of the people I meet, and none of them will have heard of any of them. None of them. None of the big three. Big three, what are you even talking about? The Musketeers? Am I supposed to go get a 3 Musketeers candy bar? That's what you'll get. So anyway, guys, much love to all of you. Thank you so much for watching. You are our Players Box, and I hope you all understand that. It's been a long day. We've been on the court all day, coaching. A little bit of rain came in, but we wanted to get something down today.
But it was more like of a long day yesterday, so it's kind of dragged on to today.
So much love to everyone out there. Take care. Much love to everyone. Let's go. But think about things like the players with the likes of Bublik and Agassi have said, and think about how difficult it is to be a tennis player and to stay at the top of the game. Even if you're the mighty Roger Federer that takes a couple of months off for a knee injury, it's very difficult, especially at 38, to come back. So don't call me a hater. That's just reality. Much love. Take care, everybody. See you next time. Let's go!